Hi, I'm Julian, and you're listening to Awakened Nation.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Szollose, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Awesome. Today's guest is from down under, from Australia, Julian Noel. Welcome aboard, Julian. Great to have you on today.
Thank you very much, Brad. Appreciate that.
Good. I want to dig in a little bit here. You're the founder of Shine, a global community of entrepreneurs and change makers that are facilitating transformation through community. Shine events gather change makers, and you guys make a difference. In 2012, you created Shine, am I correct?
That's correct, yeah. We launched in 2012, yeah.
And I love the whole idea. You're talking about a new human. You're talking about change. You're talking about, quite frankly, when we met, I was incredibly impressed that you give a damn. So let's talk about that. The new human giving a damn about society and caring and taking life to another level.
Beautiful. That's a really beautiful summation of what it is I do, and I guess the kind of people that gather around Shine. So it's a better world through business, basically. I think there's a growing demographic of individuals that are really taking back their power, but by power I mean the ability to affect change. I think for the last few centuries we've become more and more reliant on social structures and government structures to make changes that we wanted to see in the world, and by and large they were successful at that. But I think there's a lot of us are kind of feeling that humanity is seeking new forms and new expression, a new way of relating to one another, new way of relating to difference, and we want to do something about that. So I originally started kind of meddling in this at around 2005. I started the Aware Business Community. And that was for business people who had a sense of purpose behind their work. So beyond profit is purpose. And that to me speaks to a spiritual connection, a deeper connection with the planet and people. So people who feel that and who hold those values as important, I wanted to start gathering them. So I started off holding these meetings, and sort of grew, that kind of grew, and then it morphed into Shine, which is now a global community.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, and you said it, you threw it out there right away, this spiritual kind of part of this. And for those of you who are feeling awkward with that word, let's just say it's opening the heart and giving, and instead transforming and shifting to maybe, instead of just gathering and taking, but now really connecting with people. And I want to ask you, what made you woke up? I mean, what made you awaken or wake up to this? Because obviously you're successful. Obviously you've done some amazing things in your life, but one day something shifted.
Yeah, look, look, I'm sorry I used the word spiritual. It's a horrible word.
It's a great word.
Oh no, I think it's terrible. It's like, the blinds come down for a lot of people when you say the word spiritual. And I think language is one of the most important things. But this emerging movement, and gathering of people, we've just come out of this whole thing around the New Age, which was all about crystals, and it was all about energy, and it was all about very woo-woo. But now I think the notion of the new human, there's an emerging awareness, if you like. There's an expression of deeper held values. And I put that under the word spiritual, but I really shouldn't. It doesn't explain it well, because spirituality implies so many kind of weird things. But I think it's a deep sense of caring. is really what it is. And that comes from a profound place. It comes from my experience, from the heart. So it's really very much a heartfelt movement of people who have a particular set of skills. They know how to create success in the world. They know how to create prosperity, and they know that their life has a deeper kind of resonance and meaning. And I guess in relationship to my own awakening, that happened in my 20s when I learned to meditate. And I found that there was a whole world beyond the circumstances of my life that was really characterized by stillness, by silence, and by the ability to be creative. And that's really the shift that occurred for me. And that was around 1980 when I really started to do that. And at that time, I was training to be an actor. And, actors need to be incredibly flexible emotionally and mentally, because we give ourselves to characters who can have a very weird view on life, Right. And so I had to really develop a sense of detachment, if you like, or a different relationship to my emotions and my mind. And then I began to see that emotions are very much a reality box that really determines so much and could quite often get in the way of what my intuition or what my deeper sense of calling was all about. And that to me is what being woke is all about, is having a shift in the relationship to how we respond to life, and that there is a deeper connection, a quieter, more connected, more intelligent relationship with life itself.
Wow. That's heavy. Julian Noel on our show today on Awakened Nation. You reminded me of something that is incredibly profound. I grew up in a very small town, and I really am grateful for that education, that way of living and the small town values. But I realized when I moved to New York City, I began to meditate as well. And I realized that was the beginning of my journey into this going closer to the heart, as my favorite Rush song goes. And I started to realize you're absolutely right. There's this serendipity that takes place. You begin to have an emotional connection to yourself. You stop kind of being a jerk. I liken it to, have you ever been to a concert? And I hate to say this, but they pass around a doobie, and no one's a jerk when that happens. Everybody's sharing in this sort of brotherly and sisterly love in that moment. And I feel the same way with meditation and connection with people, that suddenly we are no longer, do you know who I am? I race on the Autobahn. Do you know how awesome I can be? And now that shuts down, and we're sitting there going, tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you had to overcome. Tell me your life's journey. And I think you embody that. And I'll let our listeners know, the first time I was on a conversation, on a call similar to this with Julian, one of the people that was on the call with us was giving all surface questions. And you just cut through the muck and said, hey, what's going on over there? And I love that about you. How did you learn that?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I think, as I mentioned before, I trained as an actor, and I learned a lot of that in acting class. I guess I learned to see and feel and hear things, what I call 4 levels down, Yeah. And that to me is where the truth is. It's so you go beyond, the mental framework. You go beyond the ego of what people want us to like, about them, and then there's a story that's presented. And for me, none of that really resonates. And if you drop beneath that, that's where authenticity lies. That's where the true message lies. And when I work with entrepreneurs or change makers, most of the people who I work with are transitioning, they're growing, and they can feel a little bit uncertain about, well, I know I should be doing something else, but I'm not sure what it is. And it's that level 4 where the truth really lives. And you need to be coached through that. You need to be facilitated through that type of process, because we're not schooled in purpose. We're not schooled in deep connection. We're not schooled in authenticity. We're taught to bullshit and, impress and all this, and it's, fuck, I'm over that, man. I can't stand that,
Yeah. What did Tom Peters say? He says, if you're not upset, dazed, and confused, you're just not in touch with reality. I love that. And I think you're right. Like I said, I'm from a small town, and I remember when I decided to be a keynote speaker, and I remember I traveled to Texas, and I get off the elevator, and I hear this in the lobby. As I'm walking through the lobby, I hear this whisper from a woman who was in the cocktail lounge. She goes, "Oh my God, it's him." And I spun around. I'm looking, what celebrity? And some woman goes, "Who?" And they go, "It's our keynote speaker," meaning me. And I'm like, "Oh, for the love of God, why? Why would you give a damn about me? I'm just giving a speech." And it's, I spend time with him and everything else, but we go through this. First of all, in society, we're taught to bullshit our way till we make it. Fake it till we make it. Then you make it. And now you realize everybody's running around with their bullshits out in the front. And I think, I came out here to the Southwest and sat in a peyote ceremony as soon as I got out here, just to drop all that nonsense, that crap. And I think your events, let's talk about your events, because you cut through the crap. And I want to, what's it like to go to the New Human, to these events that you put on with Shine?
Look, I think, there's that old saying, the truth will set you free. And I really hold facilitate conversations. And they're very, very highly curated. Like, a Shine event really starts 3 months before the event, where I call all the speakers and presenters together online. So they come from all around the world. And we do deep dive discussions around the key themes. And when you create connectedness amongst the presenters, you will create connectedness with the audience, because an audience will always go to the level of the speaker. If a speaker is nervous and anxious, that ripples through an audience. But if there's a level of depth and there's a level of connection, the speaker to themselves, and then if there's a panel discussion, the audience will go to that same place. So I guess my role as a facilitator, I'm really only just starting to own this myself, is about the ability to take people to a deep and safe place inside them, where their true dreams and their true desires really live. And so you're wanting to create a high level of safety in the room. And then you get people engaged with others. So I'm very much, one of the kind of leading ideas behind Shine events is take the sage off the stage. Because there's so often, like you said, you walk into the room and go, "Oh, there he is.
That's great.
There's the keynote speaker." It's like, no, I worked out that, you had an audience of 300 people. You could have anywhere up to 6,000 years of experience in the room. And you're going to tell me one person on stage is going to give the answer to everybody? So I really like to plug into what's called what I call the collective wisdom, and then somehow elicit that and bring that onto the stage. So everyone is on the stage. That's what I set out to do with the Shine event.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with you. You have 6,000 years with 300 people in the audience, and everybody thinks the problems are going to be answered by one person on the stage. But I like what you talk on the website, Raw Real Conversations, the New Human, an online summit. But you put it like this. This is powerful. 25 proven disruptors, innovators, game changers, and unknown extraordinary people discuss and share the steps to enable you to thrive and make a difference in a changing world. I think that's incredibly powerful, not only just as a statement, but as something that you bring out there, because I've done hundreds of events, and I've seen broke ass speakers standing on stage talking about how to be rich. I've seen people who have absolutely no emotional control talking about emotional control. And so I love the transformation that you're doing. Explain what is at one of these events, what was the most powerful transformation you've seen so far?
Look, my intention is always to connect people back to what their dream and vision is, and then to empower and enable that, to have people come back to a state of presence, and to have them come back to that place where they go, yeah, I can live into my deeper desire. I can make a difference. I am worth backing. So that to me that's the sweet spot for me, when I see people really moving forward into, their projects, their new business ideas, when they connect and they start to collaborate with others. That to me is the sign of a successful event.
Wow. Now, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out about these events? Please give us your website.
It's shineglobal.com.au, and you can come in there and you can just register to go onto our database, and there are regular emails, and we're also putting up there what our latest events are and where we're going and whatever we're doing. And you can also reach out directly to me as well, because I also offer coaching services and consult as well, and if you just want to catch up and have a conversation, you can just book in and do that through the website as well.
Excellent. Now, you specialize in cutting through the BS. How do you do that, man? I mean, really, we touched on it a little bit, but I really, we're in a day and age where everybody's talking about being authentic. Be authentic, be authentic. And you get a lot of leaders. My attitude is you either are or you aren't. And a lot of people try to fake it. And I could be wrong. I know me, but I've also learned not to be that kind of leader I hated. I am the leader I think I've always, not only the leader I would follow, but the leader I think you should be. And so I just want to touch base on, how do you convince somebody that in this day and age, it's time to be authentic?
I don't convince people. I really only put it out there to work with people who know the value of authenticity and who are ready to peel the layers of the onion themselves. And I ask three central questions. And the first question is, who are you? And the second question is, what are you here to do? And the third question is, what's next? So everything that I do is based around those three questions, because they're questions that really are emergent. They address, who are you? What's your understanding of who you are and what you stand for? And then the second one is, well, I love that Mary Oliver poem, what are you going to do with your one, sweet and precious life? And so drilling down into, what are you really here to do? And then the third one is, okay, if you're here to do that, what's next? And just keeping it really simple and direct around that,
Well, you say this a little bit in your bio, and I love what you say here. Clarity leads to results. And I work, and you say this, I work with people to clarify both the steps to take and to create personal relevance and engagement from all team members. For the past 22 years, you've worked with individuals, teams, businesses, and communities to define and achieve their plans and goals. Say it, man. It's when you can gain that clarity, and I've found this for myself. I can't manifest anything until I can see it and feel it and know the process. Talk about that. How do you get to that clarity? Because I know for myself, Julian, for a long time, I was trying to manifest stuff I was pushing against something which I'll just say to the audience, I was trying to prove my dad wrong about me. I was trying to prove him wrong. And so that psychologically, that was a fist, meaning a hand. And when I let that go and I realized I need to create for me, that's when my life took off. So let's talk about that. Do you get people who their goals are really not their goals? Their clarity is not their clarity?
Yeah, great question. That's such a brilliant question. Look, I would say 95%, even more, even higher. So let's say 99% of people's goals are what I call default goals. They're all about looking good. They're about papering over a crack where we can't accept a level of our humanity. So I work with this three-part process, and I work intuitively. So to me, the intuition sits beyond the mind, and it sits beyond the emotion. And so I have these processes that I lead people through. So the first thing I want to get clarity around is, well, what's your vision? What is it that's truly seeking to emerge? So then you have your vision. And then the next thing we look at is, what's your current reality? So, where are you in relationship to your vision? Now, when you get clarity on those two, what you do is you set up a dynamic of creative tension. Nature always seeks to resolve tension. So you've got your vision, you've got your current reality, they start to move together, right? But we're not great at dealing with creative tension. And so we always seek to, solve a problem. And most of us, we look to our past, we look to our history. And that will govern even what we choose to have as a vision. Oh, no, that would be stupid. I've never done that. Oh, I couldn't do that. I'm not that sort of person. Oh, people will think I'm a wanker if I say I'm doing this. We want to maintain our egoic structures. We want to maintain our inner workings. So this way of working is rigorous. It does require a commitment at a deeper level. And then the third part of the process is, what's the bridge between your current reality and your vision, right? What's the quickest and easiest and simplest way to bring those two together to resolve the tension from an intuitive perspective? So that's in essence what it is. That's the process behind what I do.
That's powerful. You're listening to Julian Noel, and coach, amazing transformational individual, runs these amazing events. But I also want to talk a little bit about, you've got a serious business background too, my friend. You've been on television, you've been in theater, you're an actor, but you also started Black Diamond Aromatherapy Hair Care back in the 80s, and you built it from nothing, and then your client base was from 13 countries over a period of 14 years. You've turned over millions of dollars, and you had some pretty famous names. Sassoons of London, Madonna, came to you, Jane Champion, Nicole Kidman, and others. I'm always impressed, and you can talk about this, how the artist person becomes a successful business. And I think I'm a walking testament to that, because I'm quoted in Forbes and Inc. magazine, and I have a degree in art, okay? I always find that funny. Let's talk about that. Oh my God, this is my favorite subject. The artist, the creative who becomes a multimillionaire, creates this salon, and I love those stories.
Look, that's such a great question. That's such a great question. And yeah, I think, I remember, one of my friends, used to say to me repeatedly, he said, "You're not a business person, you're an artist. You're an artist. You're an artist." And I've had to come to accept that. Because I think an artist plugs into a different level of reality. An artist sees the world in a different way and organizes reality in a different way. And I think what I learned from training as an actor, and it was also the ability to create something from nothing. So when I created Black Diamond, I started with one product, which I invented, and then had the intuition that I could sell it all over the world. So I had an idea and I had an intuition, And I knew nothing about business, nothing at all. But I just resolved that I would do 2 things every single day to move my business forward. That's all I had,
Wow.
That's all I had. And when I started, I didn't even have a car. The bank wouldn't give me any money, so I started this business with two credit cards, and I would take my product on public transport. So in Melbourne, where I started, there was tram lines everywhere. So I would catch a tram and I'd have boxes of my product under my arm. I'd go into hairdressing salons and I would give them a free sample. I kind of figured, why would anyone buy from me? Well, they probably wouldn't because they didn't know me. I was an out-of-work actor who didn't have any background in hair care products. Why the fuck would you buy something from him? So I thought, look, it's really good. Take it, try it. I'll come back next week and you tell me if you liked it. And so I'd go back in the next week and most people liked it. And I worked out that, okay, well, here, buy 10 and I'll give you 2 for free. And so it was really fundamentally simple. And then once I'd been to all the hairdressing salons around Melbourne on the tram, I then jumped on the train and went to all the other large cities around Australia and did exactly the same thing. And then within a year, I was living in London, and Sassoons had become my #1 client. And they then took my product all around the world, and they used it. They used to do presentations to like 2,000 hairdressers at a time, and my product was always pride of place on stage. And then I formed a really good relationship with Sassoons. They asked me to develop products with them and for them, so I did that. And for me, business is all about honouring the person. Whoever I'm talking to deserves to be honoured, and to listen deeply to what problem might they have and how might I solve that problem. That for me is the basis of business and how I work. And I think the new thing for me, and it's part of this new human movement, is around collaboration. Like, I have amazing resources. Its resource is people. It's who I know around the world. And then my second thing is, well, who can I help? And where's the business idea in this that's mutually beneficial? So I think the whole fabric of business is changing. I think more and more people are coming together to be of assistance to each other. And I have no problem introducing people to my community and network. If they can add value to one another, knock yourself out. Go for it.
That's freaking amazing. I love stories like this where, because my grandfather was one of these types of people. All he ever talked about, he had a restaurant in Pennsylvania, down in Chambersburg. All he ever talked about was making the customer happy. We used to when I was little, we used to go, oh, there's Pap again going off. And he's like, oh, they're going to love this. They're going to love the taste of this. It was like art to him. And he would always find a way. And you're reminding me of that. He always had these great stories. And I love the fact that you sit there and you go, you know what? I know what people like. I connect to people. And you really started at a grassroots level selling your product. You just went in and said, hey, try it. If you like it, I'll be back next week. That is amazing to me. And you built this brand up, multi-million-dollar brand, just from starting on the subway, on the train, going from place to place. That is a true testament to what you do. And I love that about you. So I'm going to, let's move forward here. I hope everybody's enjoying this, because you started 2005, the Aware Business Community. And then in 2012, you launched Shine. You want to connect the dots on this timeline for us? Because I'm listening and I'm fascinated by your story. I really am.
Well, when I started in 2005, I guess I really wanted to bring together people who wanted to make a difference. And what I started to do was I started offering a series of learning experiences, around marketing. It was my greatest strength. I spent quite a bit of time with a guy called Jay Abrahams around direct response marketing. And I found out I was really, really, really good at that. I could grow sales incredibly quickly, 10, 20 times the industry average, applying some of these principles. And that's how I started to engage people. But then I kind of realized I actually didn't want to work with people who were learning, who were students in business. I felt a better connection to people who already knew how to be successful, who already had a level of mastery in business, and that they were then going through a period of inner transition. They were finding out who they were and what they wanted to do next. So that's really when it morphed into Shine. And then what the shift was, Shine started to showcase people who were doing amazing things. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and I wanted to start telling their stories. Much the same as the way you're interviewing me, right. Going deep into the process. Why did you do that? How did you come to do that? What did you learn? What would you pass on to others? So coming back to my theatre roots, really, which was about affirmation and storytelling, affirming the deep places that we go to. You know, like the entrepreneurial journey, there is no personal development course like entrepreneurship. If you want to meet the deepest, darkest, most terror-filled part of yourself, start a business.
You nailed it.
There is nothing will test you like a business, and nothing will test you like a business partner. And so how we navigate a journey towards a vision, an executed vision, a vision made real in the world, is a massive journey. And it's a myth, it's of mythic proportion. And I mean myth in the highest use of the word, when you have to drop into the deeper universal stories rather than, the psychologized stories, the therapeutic stories. We need to find that place of strength and will and courage within ourselves,
Oh, it's incredible. You blow my mind because you said something that I tell my clients all the time. I said, your business will be a reflection of your personal stuff, and vice versa. Your personal stuff will show up in your business. Totally. If you don't believe in yourself, I just ended a business partnership after 1 year because he had low self-esteem, and I'm not knocking him or anything else, but he had a business model that I'm not used to. I'm from New York City. I'm used to going after big clients. He wanted to go after small clients, and that's okay. He can continue doing that under that business model, but I could see the reflection of his own personal inner demon coming out in our business partnership. So
very true.
I find this fascinating. I was on a wall recently, and you'll probably crack up at this because you're going to love the answer. I watched the moderator basically say, what inspired you to start your business, and what do you think is the number one thing that makes entrepreneurs want to start a business? And you know what a lot of the answers were. They were, I want to change the universe, and I want to give back. And I wrote in, anger. Anger is the number one reason a lot of people start a business, because that's the motivator. That's what made Reed Hastings start Netflix. He returned the Right Stuff, the VHS tape of Right Stuff. They charged him $40, which back in the early 90s was an astronomical amount of money. That's like $140 today. He was so angry, he started Netflix. I want you to think about that. And I think, and I'm not saying anger is the best way to start a business, but a lot of times for men especially, it's our motivator to step up and change. What do you think? I mean, I'm not saying that's a good motivator, but sometimes to change your lot in life, to do something, you're at the lowest point, your anxiety is high, you're frustrated. Boom, you start a business.
Yeah, look, I think that's a really, really, really good point. I think that's such a great point. For me, the process of creation is really based on inspiration. I'll get a thunderingly good idea where my whole system lights up. And to me, that's a moment of intelligence. And 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 then it's about putting it in. It's about putting it into action. So I think it's inspiration and courage that creates business. And I know when I work with people, I'm listening for those moments of inspiration when the whole system lights up. I go, yeah, I think that's the idea. But I also, I don't invalidate anger at all. I think anger fuels a lot of comedy and stand-up comedy, and a lot of people who are in action in the world. You're either coming from care or anger. I think
Right.
you need to connect with a deep. You need to know what your engine is inside.
Yeah. I think anger is a good motivator as long as it's healthy anger.
Yeah.
Some people go into drinking or they want to take it out on their spouse. But I think there's good anger, and good anger is, I can't do this way anymore. I want to be better. I want to change my standards. And I think that's the power of it all. And what I find fascinating, and we're about to go into our lightning round where I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that just off the top of your head, but you come from the heart and you have a good business head. And that's rare, my friend. That is a rare commodity, to have an open heart, passionate heart, and you worry about the return on investment later, you jump in. And what do you think of that? There's going to be people who are listening who probably shouldn't be entrepreneurs. They don't know it.
Yeah.
They're in the second half of their life, and they say, you know what, I made all this money running this company. Let me start a company. What do you say to that?
Oh, fuck off. No, don't. No, don't. I think if anger, motivates people to go into business, I think fear motivates people buying stuff. And entrepreneurialism is the latest kind of product. And people have so much fantasy around being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is nothing but hard work. And you've got to put your shoulder to the, whatever they say, your shoulder to the grindstone, and it's hard. It's testing, it's challenging, and you find strengths you don't know you had. Some people are natural employees. Know what your laneway is and stay there. Entrepreneurialism is not a formula. No. It's a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's an orientation.
Well, a lot of people think that because they ran a company, they can now create a company, and it'll kill you. And the company that made me famous was K2. And I remember my business partner and I, at the time, it was just two of us. We later became four business partners, but we didn't have laptops back then. And we definitely couldn't afford the new ones that came out. So we would dismantle our entire desktop screens, scanners, you name it, and load it in the car on a Friday night and drive to a friend's house so we could work all day Saturday. Now, we could have gone into the office on Saturday, but our building closed at 4 o'clock on Saturdays. So sometimes 4 o'clock, we're loading up the car with all our computer equipment, full desktops, okay, with the big screens, in the back seat of the car, drive out to Queens and set up in a friend's house and start doing design work from Saturday late on into Sunday, and then drive that stuff back in on Monday morning. And there was no cloud. There was no store it up there. We had to carry SiteQuest drives, these 5-inch big things that only held, you got it. So if you're not prepared for that hell to 16 and 20-hour days, if you're not prepared to sleep on the floor of your office and an office that may not have heat, okay, if you aren't willing to, because our building shut down at I think 11 o'clock at night, we ran to the deli at 9, bought all kinds of food and came back, and they locked up the building, and we had to pretend we were we weren't in there, and started firing everything back up at 11:30 and work till 2 o'clock in the morning, sleep in the office, be up the next day at 6 a.m. to meet a deadline. People may not be ready for this instant overnight success that we see a lot of times took 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. So I'm gonna ask, I do this with every guest, I'm gonna ask the lightning round, and this is just off the cuff because I want people to understand who you are. What's your favorite album?
Oh, Led Zeppelin.
Which one?
Stairway to Heaven.
Nice.
That album.
Nice. Yeah, that is awesome. What's your perfect day look like?
Sunny with a great view in front of me in the mountains.
What's your favorite food?
Ooh, calamari.
Whoa. Do you like sweet sauce or marinara?
Ooh, marinara.
Nice. And if you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Myself.
Excellent. Julian Noel, thank you for being on the show today. He's the founder of Shine. Go to shineglobal.com.au in Australia, and also go to thenewhumansummit.com.au. Julian, thank you so much for being on today's show, my friend. Love you, man.
Thank you very much, Brad. Really, really appreciate it, and look forward to us doing stuff together as we go into the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Tune in next week on Awaken Nation.
I want to thank you so much for being a big part of the Awaken Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.